Oh, Ubisoft. Here we go again. Now, Assassin's Creed Valhalla has had a relatively quiet launch, launching across various generations, and while there was a buggy start with the game, mostly well received. A game that sat at an 84 Metacritic score and an 8.4 user score on Metacritic. Rare that the critics and actual users agree, but that is all about to change today because, well, Ubisoft. Assassin's Creed Valhalla is it's actually installed on my Xbox, and I'm ready to play it. Hopefully over Christmas. I'm considering taking a week off just to play video games. I'll probably stream during that time, but right now I continue to grind. And they just made a quiet change. Now, I want to tell you why this is so skeezy. It's not because Ubisoft, wants to sell some garbage. Fine, all right? I've never been a cosmetics person, but I know a lot of people are. And hey, it's your money. Spend it how you wish. You work hard for it. If you want to bling out your character, do people still say that? Probably not. If you want to customize your character and make it your own and pay $5 or $10 to do it, more power to you. Nothing wrong with that. But the XP booster that they quietly snuck into Assassin's Creed Valhalla is unacceptable. Why is it unacceptable? Well, for several reasons, but of course, the most important and the one you need to remember is when you sell an XP booster, what's the first thing as an owner of the game that you ask? Not how much, come on. You wonder if they slowed progression inside the game to make it more enticing, right? The idea that you would sell a progression booster opens it up to, well, did you slow everything down so that more people would be inclined? What do you do when you launch an Assassin's Creed game? Include the option for your customers to pay $10 to level up faster, draw all kinds of negative reactions, many of them suspicious, wary, and then launch a new Assassin's Creed 2 years later? Well, you launch that controversial paid booster again? Not quite. If you're publisher Ubisoft, you leave out your $10 XP booster at first, hooray, and then add it a month after release. Yesterday, Assassin's Creed Valhalla Online Source saw the addition of 2 premium boosters. For $10, players can permanently supercharge their character's experience to gain by 50%. They can pay another $10 to do the same for how much in-game currency they own, or buy a $15 bundle that lets them do both. In a world where games are already base pricing at $70 plus, they want to charge you another $15 to enjoy their game probably how it was meant to be intended. I will not be convinced otherwise that it doesn't at least factor in when they know down the road that they're going to sell an XP booster, that they slow down progression. Because if progression was normal, right, and progression was, passed as per usual, why would you need this? And I know that there's like a percentage of people that might say, well, this is just how I want to play the game. I don't have as many hours. I don't have 100 hours to play the game. And that may be true. But if you go back to what happened during Odyssey, you'll see a disturbing trend. 2 years ago, okay, by the way, gaining XP in Valhalla allows players to earn points that they can spend on improving their character's offense and defensive statistics, as well as perks that make their character more powerful. 2 years ago, Assassin's Creed Odyssey designers denied that the boosters influenced the design of the game, saying they didn't throttle the speed at which your character became stronger in order to drive people towards buying the booster. Today, a Ubisoft rep said the same thing about the Valhalla booster. Quote, "The XP boosters did not influence the game design." Bull spit. Bull. I just don't believe you. Now, the article continues, it's plausible that Valhalla's designers calculated the rate at which characters would improve the game without factoring in paid boosters. Character advancement in Valhalla is constant as players climb hundreds of levels in quest after quest. It's also plausible for Odyssey that it was a possible way for players to comfortably improve their character without paying for boosters by playing the game with the omnivorous appetite for main quests and side quests. If players focused more on main quests, the power climb was far tougher. Odyssey's developers had to deal with, at the very least, the appearance of potentially throttled progression, because that $10 booster went on sale at the exact same time of a $60 game. Who could fully rule out the idea that the game was being sold without a hidden cost, like supposedly a free mobile game that moves too slowly unless you pay? And that's exactly the skeeziness of this. That is a primary feature of mobile games, are time gates. And unless you're like my wife and your tablet now thinks it's the year 1460, and she's never paid for any Candy Crush or anything like that, some people just say, well, what's my time worth? I'm going to throw $5 in. And to be honest, again, in a free game, I'm far more accepting of it. Look, it's free. Play it as much as you want for zero cost. If you want to speed things up or you really want to get at it, that probably means you're having fun. And if that means you want to spend $20 or $30 over the period of a month enjoying that game, more power to you. Now, obviously, there are people that are way more predatory than this, but that's a different conversation. Last spring, Craptaku asked the creative director of Valhalla about the potential for an XP booster. He dodged, saying he and the team had rethought progression in game to keep players from feeling like areas they wanted to explore were inaccessible to them. Then came the launch and no booster. Lesson learned? Well, it seems the lesson was sort of learned. Another big publisher, Activision, has regularly been adding microtransactions to Call of Duty games after release, past when their products are reviewed. Valhalla did launch with some microtransactions for specific outfits and helpful maps, but those notorious boosters were held back until now. Why do you think that is? That's so they don't get crushed by reviews. It's just... Maybe it's entirely just an optional thing and it really was no part of the game development. But it's at least plausible that it wasn't, and that they artificially tuned down the rate at which you progressed to entice people to purchase this. Now, is there a percentage of people that would just buy this no matter what? Probably. Especially, remember, all the kids and adults, really, that are going to get this game for Christmas. They got the game for free. What's another $15 to catch up to their friends? The other thing is, we'll never know. The specter of doubt, for me, I don't believe you. I believe that Ubisoft purposely, in my opinion, winds down this progression so that it entices more people to buy it. Yeah, there's a tiny percentage of people that will buy it no matter what, but that's not enough to make it worth it. The fact that people have been happily advancing through Valhalla for a month supports the idea that the game wasn't designed to make people feel like they need an XP booster. There haven't been many complaints that the game is too arduous to advance through, that it leaves player characters too weak, that the complaint, if any, is that there's too much to do in its world and the game might actually be too large, which is a different sort of problem. The presence of any microtransaction is nevertheless always a prompt to wonder. And if you look, ultimately, they say Ubisoft sells the ability to play less of their game because they know the grind will be too much for some people. Of course they're lying about not designing it like that. See also, Ubisoft waits for game critics to review games before releasing scummy microtransactions so they aren't mentioned in reviews. Ubisoft, the company that puts more effort into gouging its customers than it does in dealing with their internal employees. This person says, if you like the grind, you like the grind. I was obsessed with Assassin's Creed Odyssey's world. I spent 200 hours in it, but I also noped out of Black Flag about 26 hours because some of the stupid collectibles. I think I spent about 5 hours in Sandstrewn Origins, so if the world nabs you, you just don't mind, but not every world will nab you. If you look at, even here, Ubisoft selling Assassin's Creed Valhalla boosters now, if you don't have time to level up, you could just pay cold hard cash. Well, is PC Gamer supporting this? I mean, it seems odd. It's hardly a new phenomenon, but this is a single-player game, and once upon a time, you'd be able to use a cheat code for something like this. Indeed, Assassin's Creed Odyssey did have a cheat method, sorts of, for XP grinding, concocted by players in the story creator mode, but Ubisoft quickly put a stop to that. These exploits risk jeopardizing the overall quality, integrity, and purpose of story creator mode, and results in less visibility for the creative. Yeah, translation, we want you to pay money to do that. Ubisoft sent Game Informer a statement on the Valhalla boosters, writing, quote, "As more and more post-launch content becomes available, we want to give the option to players to advance their progression. Utilities allow players who lack the time to fully explore the world of Assassin's Creed Valhalla to be able to acquire the game's best gear as well as other items." Look, if you buy these things, it's fine. Really, in a single-player mode, in a single-player game, they aren't really going to ruin the experience for anyone but you. I've talked about endlessly how I want to restart Red Dead Redemption 2 because I took advantage of the gold bar glitch or the silver bar glitch or whatever it was in the beginning of the game, and I never got to experience what it was like actually needing money. So a lot of the money quests and things like that, or bounties, were irrelevant to me because I could just pay them off, and I've always regretted that because that was one of the last games I played beginning to end and just absolutely loved it, although the prologue was a little weird. You see a game overwhelmingly positive, but I suspect that you're going to start to see more negative reviews coming in now. We see one already. Hey, Ubisoft, doing microtransactions in a single-player game when all the ratings have already been entered? Are you seriously? Boosters, shame on you. Hey, gamers, let's punch these greedy people, knock down the rating. I mean, all the recent reviews aren't great. You know, ultimately, the game, I think, is fine. I mean, look, it runs on Xbox Series X, One, Stadia, PS4, PC, and PlayStation 5. That's, considering the bugs we've seen with Cyberpunk, like, you've got to kind of at least give them some of that. But if we look at it on the PlayStation 4, 7.3, I suspect these scores will start to drop now, and I don't blame them. I hope you enjoyed this video. We'll talk to you again real soon.